My name is Jeff Branch, and this is SketchUp for Woodworkers Extreme Basics. This video series supports the classroom instruction at the Alabama Woodworkers Guild quarterly SketchUp Workshop. We meet at the Guild's workshop, which we call the Woodworking Education Center, which is located in Maline, Alabama. We meet the first month of each quarter, the third Saturday of that month at 8 a.m. Visitors are welcome, and you should bring your laptop and mouse. This first video will cover 4 things: finding and opening SketchUp Free, setting up SketchUp Free for woodworking, understanding how to use the mouse, and understanding keyboard shortcuts. To begin SketchUp Free, go to SketchUp.com, click the Products tab, which is right here, and in the drop-down menu, click SketchUp Free. On the next web page, click Begin Modeling. You will need to set up a username and password. SketchUp Free is a web-based application, so an adequate internet connection is a must. Now let's set up SketchUp Free for woodworking. First, we need to make sure the right template is selected. By going to the top left corner of the screen, I can choose New Model and select the standard template for feet and inches. There is also an option for millimeters and meters. This is the standard view when launching SketchUp Free, and it includes a figure known as Helen. She is placed in SketchUp Free primarily to add scale to your modeling environment. I always click on Helen and delete her, but for now I'll keep her. Next, the look of your model and background is determined by the style being used. There are multiple options for different styles and are found on the right side of your screen here. I encourage you to play around with the impact of the various styles available. Some are extremely dramatic and some are simpler, providing a more hand-drawn look to your model. But for woodworking, I primarily use one of 2 different styles. These can be found under the default style tab and are called construction documentation, and is useful when I want a white background and crisp lines. I also use woodworking style when I want a neutral color for the background. For now, I'll set the style to construction documentation. Now let's take a look at how to use the mouse. This is one of the basic principles I wish I knew about SketchUp when I first started. Within the mouse are the most common commands required for easily moving about your 3D environment. In the description below this video, there is a link to what is called the SketchUp Pro Quick Reference Card. I am using the SketchUp Pro Quick Reference Card for Windows. Pause this video, click the link, and then print the Quick Reference Card. Even though this reference card isn't intended for use with SketchUp Pro, there are a number of tips useful for SketchUp Free. For now, let's focus on the graphic at the bottom left of the card, which shows the image of the computer mouse. Notice how the scroll wheel is highlighted in red. The scroll wheel is what is really important here. By manipulating the scroll wheel, you can zoom, orbit, and pan. By learning these commands via the mouse and scroll wheel, you can bypass looking for these same tools, which are found nested in the lower left-hand side of your computer screen in SketchUp. Let's take a look at what each one does. All right, zoom. By simply rolling the scroll wheel forwards and backwards, you can zoom in and out. For orbit, by depressing and holding down the scroll wheel and moving it left to right, you can orbit left to right. Then for pan, by depressing and holding down the scroll wheel and also depressing the shift key on your keyboard, you can pan left to right and up and down. Again, this is depressing and holding the scroll wheel and using the shift key on your keyboard. The graphic includes a command for double-clicking the scroll wheel, which appears to be deactivated for SketchUp Free. Practice using the scroll wheel and train yourself to use these commands versus using the same commands from the toolset. Lastly, let's talk about keyboard shortcuts. Another benefit of the quick reference card is identifying keyboard shortcuts. I sometimes see SketchUp users reaching for tools from the left side of the screen, such as the Select tool, Eraser tool, and the Paint bucket. Many of these same tools can be activated by simply tapping a letter on the keyboard. These letters or shortcuts are identified on the card by a letter in parentheses. For example, the Line tool is L, which is right here, also found over here, and the Move tool is M, here and here. Not all of the keyboard shortcuts are so easily identified. The Select tool uses the spacebar and the Rotate tool is Q. Just as with the mouse, train yourself to use these keyboard shortcuts where possible. I still reach for a tool from time to time, but by training yourself to use shortcuts, you will find yourself enjoying SketchUp more. Further exploring the quick reference card will show many of the basic tools on the left side of the card, and the right side of the card lists tools with additional commands when using a tool in conjunction with a key on your keyboard. As you begin to use SketchUp, look and see if there is a keyboard shortcut for the tool you are using, and train yourself to use keyboard shortcuts as much as possible. In the next video in this series, we will begin to create our first model, a simple 8-foot long 1x6 board.